The biggest thing for us is definitely shorts, because a lot of the data that we're getting right now it's somewhat skewed because it's still such a new platform. So I'm excited to dive into that. They're also introducing a new way of using shorts where they're going to lead to more long form content. If you have a product or a service that's higher AOV, might require more than one touch point or explanation, education, that sort of thing. It's a really interesting way to use it is to have shorter shorts to give a little bit of information and then bring it to the long form stuff. Most brands are already making short form content for Instagram Reels, for TikTok. So just post them in shorts. It's a great way to build views and build that channel without adding a whole ton of extra work for you.
Are you ready to grow your audience and revenue? Sendinblue is a multi-channel marketing platform that empowers businesses to create stronger customer relationships. Create personalized emails, captivating SMS campaigns, chat, custom landing pages, quick sign-up forms, automated workflows, and more instantly. Curious to learn more? Sign up today at sendinblue.com/DTC and enter promo code DTC to get 1 month free on a premium plan. Do it all with Sendinblue.
It's all killer, no filler, the DTC Podcast. I'm Eric Dick. Today we are here with Chelsea, Dougie, and Cam from Pilothouse. Chelsea and Dougie are from Pilothouse's Google and YouTube team. So we're doing a bit of a retrospective on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. From the Google perspective, we caught up with our Meta team last week. So we're going to talk about results on the Google suite, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, as well as our 2023 predictions. I'm just curious, when we talked with the Meta team about results, I think no one was expecting like a down year, but everyone was kind of holding their breath a little bit, I think, about what results would look like this Black Friday, Cyber Monday versus last. Chelsea, from your perspective, what were you thinking going in, and how were your expectations met with Google performance over Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Well, I mean, for me, going in, being on the creative side, going in, I obviously concerned about results in the performance side of things, but it was whether everything was going to be a little bit more stressful, a little bit more on edge. But talking with a lot of people, we were all going through Black Friday this year a little bit more calm, which is kind of suspicious. And looking performance-wise, we were kind of thinking things might be a little bit, I don't want to say down year over year, but, similar to what they said, just not really sure what it was going to be like on the performance side.
And how was it?
For the most part, it was actually really well. There were a couple accounts where we didn't quite meet, what we were expecting. But there was also a lot of areas where we, went above and beyond. Just looking back, there's an account that we worked on that was just paid search at the beginning for Black Friday last year. And we added YouTube in April this year. And then, comparing year over year, we were up in overall revenue 37% for November. So it was really awesome to see, some huge wins too.
Interesting to hear that coming from YouTube too. It's just all the buzz these days is on just the sheer scope and scale of YouTube. Dougie, from your perspective on Google, how were things this year?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think, like you said, there was some skepticism, especially given how the early part of the year had played out. I think a lot of advertisers were a bit worried about Black Friday and Cyber5 overall. And just especially looking at year over year, right? Like COVID years, COVID curve, people were growing like crazy in 2020, 2021. And I think given the slight softness we saw throughout the first 3 quarters of relative softness, right, through 2022, there was some, not fear, but certainly some worry about how Black Friday and Cyber5 were going to perform. But overall, I think it depends client to client, right? But the vast majority of clients certainly broke year over year records as well. Google has been reporting that over Cyber5, only 4% growth, which I mean is roughly what we expected. But over the Black Friday day specifically, we did see 12% growth. So that kind of points to consumers holding out for what they presume to be the best deal, right? Like the early sales didn't quite hit as hard. But yeah, overall, definitely positive, but not, there was certainly some skepticism going in.
I'm a little embarrassed to say this is the first time I've heard the term Cyber5, because Cyber Monday clearly does not capture what Cyber Monday is anymore, because every sale that I was signed up for went throughout the week. I'm still getting texts from a t-shirt company that they're still extending their sales further. So thanks for teaching me about that. My question is, so with Meta and like paid social, it's, whenever Saul or some of the other Google people come on the podcast, there's sort of a metaphor about how with Facebook, you can kind of like hit the scale button, you press, you can dump a bunch of spend into a bunch of dump of fresh creative, and you can really scale it up. Whereas with Google's more of a jet taking off, where you kind of build it over time. I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on how Google scaled during this time? I guess search volume scales, so it's like top of funnel just scales naturally during this time as well, right?
Totally. And I think you make a super point there about kind of the jet taking off. I think a lot of advertisers can make the mistake of launching campaigns the day of, and they just don't have the learnings to perform. Because especially if you're using value-based bidding over a 30-day look-back period, which is what Google uses for that value-based bidding, it just doesn't have the data to take off. And you're ending up the first 4 days of a sale struggling to get spend out the door. And then all of a sudden you spend like crazy on the last day and it still doesn't really have any conversion data behind it. So that's why it's important if you're launching direct value-based campaigns to get them started early, even if they don't have the copy or creative specific to Black Friday in there. You want your campaigns to get a little bit warm. It's a slightly different scenario when we're talking about stuff that isn't using that value-based bidding. But definitely, I think a lot of advertisers can make that mistake where they launch the day of Black Friday or whenever your sale starts, right, and they can't get spend going, and then it overspends on days that they didn't want it to overspend, and it just ends up being a bit of a mess. So you're definitely right where you definitely want to warm up your campaigns going into a sale period.
Are most of our Google clients also running YouTube at this point? They mostly are. So has this always been the case? Has this always been the case with our Google clients? Like, I just feel YouTube is just coming on like a hurricane here. People are talking about shorts like crazy, being super, super valuable. When it comes to actually YouTube, what video formats were working best this year, Chelsea?
Yeah, so I mean, towards the beginning of the year, we mostly run like in-stream skippable ads. That's, the classic if you're watching a YouTube video. But, towards the end of the year, and especially in Q4 this year, we've been testing a ton of shorts on lots of our accounts. So, I mean, if people don't know what that is, it's essentially YouTube's version of a TikTok, of an Instagram reel. So it's really starting to grow as a platform. And, in lots of cases over the Black Friday period, we were actually seeing YouTube Shorts ads perform better than those in-stream skippable. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see that sort of new channel and kind of like adapting to that.
It's so, you think of TikTok and Instagram, they've built their video platforms with the quick hit social video. YouTube's for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years now, been producing these long form, building up this huge, huge audience, and then just putting shorts on as like the cherry on top of their incredible stack. So I can just see it, like everyone that I talk, it's funny, I'm starting to think that, we have to eat our own medicine a lot here, take our own dog food, eat our own dog food, take our own medicine, and start getting way more shorts up, because we have a YouTube channel. We just put our long form content there if people want to see it, but we have to start getting more short form content than there, because that's really where you're going to catch the eyes of most new shoppers, regardless of the season at this point on YouTube, probably, right?
Yeah, and that's one thing I've been telling a lot of our clients at Pilothouse is, most brands are already making short form content for Instagram Reels, for TikTok. So, just post them in shorts. It's a great way to build views and build that channel, without adding a whole ton of extra work for you.
What are the video styles? Like, what are
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I'd love to know what was working. Like, what was the creative?
So in shorts, like a lot of the stuff, it's hard to describe because there's a lot of different styles. But if you think like classic TikTok, like we've been doing a lot of the automated voiceover stuff, and really toying with the kind of loop concept. Because I mean, even though it's serving as an ad in YouTube Shorts, it still loops. So just to get people to watch it over and over again, having the same ending as the beginning, because that way your ad, Google's going to like your ad a lot more because it feels like people are really interested in it, right? So kind of using that strategy has been really good for us. And then just a lot of kind of like that scrappier UGC style and like the green screen videos, all that stuff has been really well for TikTok has been what's been working for us on Shorts.
And these are different videos than what you're running as pre-rolls generally. Or are there some instances where the pre-rolls videos just like get cut and work in Shorts as well?
There are some cases, like I said, like UGC style videos, we still do a lot of that in like a standard in-stream ad, but for the most part, we're kind of adapting and changing because, that's been the interesting thing is on the YouTube side, we are used to working with more polished content, whereas, paid socials, they're used to that scrappier and like that sort of thing. So we've almost had to like switch our mindset to think a little bit more as someone who does work with content on like paid socials, to get a little scrappier, a little bit more, clickbaity, if you will.
We talk about angles all the time on this podcast, just sort of related to pain points, really diving into customer avatars. And I know, that's part of the Pilothouse ethos is finding those angles. But I see a note here that some of the angles that brought you to Cyber Monday, to Cyber5, Black Friday, were not the ones that ended up working the best during the time period. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so that was the interesting thing. We talk a lot about doing a ton of testing throughout the year to really iron out and figure out what angles are going to work on the account, so that once we get there, we know what we're going to find success in. But at the same time, I'm still testing new angles when it comes to Black Friday. We're working with stuff that we know that's going to work, and then we're also playing with some other stuff. So that was the interesting thing. On a lot of my accounts, I see that kind of UGC social proof angle work really well, where sometimes we do get a little scrappy, but in like a more polished way, I guess you could say. But when it came down to the sales, a lot of our content that was actually outperforming all of that stuff we know was leaning more on like the polished side, high production quality, that sort of thing. So it was really interesting to see. Now, that was only on specific accounts that I work on personally here at Pilothouse, but I do know it wasn't the case with all of them.
These days, it's expensive to get shoppers to your store, so when they do show up, you want to make the most of each order. Thankfully, there's Aftersell Post-Purchase Upsell, the most popular upsell app on Shopify. With Aftersell, you can create targeted, on-brand post-purchase offers that maximize your AOV. Trusted by over 6,000 merchants, including hundreds of Shopify Plus stores like Brewmate, True Classic Teas, and Good American, Aftersell has generated over $50 million in revenue for their merchants. We've partnered with Aftersell to create a special offer for DTC listeners. Visit aftersell.com/DTC for a 10% off lifetime subscription to Aftersell and white glove support for Plus merchants. On top of that, there's a 30-day free trial, so there's zero risk to installing. That's aftersell.com/DTC.
Dougie, on the technical side, I know we've talked, I'm blanking on some of the really up-to-date Google ad units and sort of ad algorithmic AI technologies that Google's rolling out. I'm curious, what from a technical like campaign structure bidding side, what were the levers that worked best in the accounts to scale this Q4?
Yeah, I think using automation where it makes sense is definitely super useful, especially when you're in a place like me. You've got multiple clients, right? You can't have eyes everywhere all at the same time, especially on a busy day like Black Friday. So utilizing Google has and will continue to move forward in the way of automation, trying to push things to be a bit more seamless. Sometimes we like that as buyers, sometimes we don't like. Right? Like if we're, as they continue to push broad, obviously we're entering auctions that we probably wouldn't have been relevant for before or wanted to enter before. But utilizing smart automation so that you're just taking time off your hands to spend in areas that are going to move the needle a bit more. So utilizing those auto apply recommendations for certain scenarios. I certainly don't use all of them because otherwise Google would take all our money and spend it away and we'd have nothing left and very little conversion value to show for it. But there are certainly some
platform.
kind of, oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I think there are certainly some kind of areas of client hygiene where you can certainly utilize that. And we did utilize that during kind of the promotional period during Cyber5 there to allow us to really hone in on looking at the data that is going to help us move the needle.
Nice. I want to jump into, we're talking about Cyber5. We're going to talk about Q5 a little bit. But I'm just asking everyone who comes on the podcast now, because it's like the week of Chat GPT, where every third TikTok I see is Chat GPT. Everyone's talking about all the new things you can do with it. I'm curious, like I think about, like I actually had it to come, I had it come up with a keyword list for something the other day that but it was okay. It was very general. I don't think it would really work, but I'm curious from both the creative and the buying side on Google, what are your thoughts about Chat GPT and potentially like using it in the way you guys market? Is that something you're exploring so far?
It's not something we've used on the buying side yet, but it is certainly something I am curious and keeping a close eye on going forward. I think as it continues to evolve, it'll be like you're already seeing the ads pop up like this ad was written by an AI, right? Like I certainly think that it is I won't say it's the future, right? But I think there will always be kind of human hands in the mix. But I am curious to see and do anticipate it becoming more in the forefront of kind of our side of advertising. Curious to see where it goes. I'm with like how many users are hopping on board. I'm wondering when and where the monetization comes in on their front. Like they're going to be quite the force going forward, I think.
It's pretty funny too. I brought it up. I had started a chat with Saul, the head of Google, your guy's boss, and because I've seen a bunch of people saying that this is the first time in the history of the internet. Google basically started the internet, the search engine that started the internet. This is the very first time where you can see a glimmer of like a challenge on the horizon for Google a little bit, where it's like now instead of like searching for something and scrolling through 100 listings and then trying to find your recipe and having to scroll through 8 scrolls of backstory on your recipe for SEO rankings, like now there's literally this engine that can just give you an answer that makes perfect sense as soon as you ask it for exactly what you asked for, and then you can play jazz with it and you get more and more depth and more things. He scoffed at this entirely. He's like, that's utterly ridiculous, of course, but we're trying to be controversial on the podcast. I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking here. I don't think anyone's spelling the end for Google. And I think you bring up a really good point, Dougie, is like Google seamlessly brought in information, this ability to like, give you great information with that great ability to monetize. I'm sure AI will be able to do it as well, but I'm curious to follow that space, see how it goes. What about on the creative side, Chelsea? It's funny. Yesterday, I was we're launching our next live event, and I needed an early bird icon. I wanted we're actually a super early bird. We're selling super early bird tickets, so I literally went on the other one on DALL-E and was like, okay, I need an 8-bit icon of a early bird, which is a lark. I found out, so I want an icon of a lark in a superhero costume, and boom, we now have an 8-bit little icon that we have like running along the bottom of our sale. And I'm like, okay, I felt so good that I was integrating AI. Chelsea, anything from your thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, like Dougie said, haven't dabbled in it really at all yet, but I can see it being really interesting in terms of, even if it's not doing the entirety of the work for us, it could be interesting for like ideating ideas, because when you have an idea in your head, but you're not really sure how to articulate it, I think it could be useful in there, and even, in like angle generation, tossing some ideas in there and just seeing what you can get back. You never know.
I've used that a couple times now. I've actually had it write, like, we're building the education side of our business, and I had it write avatars about a teacher who is no longer loving their teaching job and they wanted to learn more about digital marketing. It writes this whole story about this person. So I think you might be onto something there when it comes to fleshing out angles, fleshing out like ways of thinking about things. And I think you're ultimately right too. People are like, oh, it's going to take over. We're just going to become more cyborgs where we learn to use it. The people that, if you're an essay writer in school, you're going to have to do it with pen and paper from now on going forward, probably. But for people professionally, like they're just going to find ways to use it effectively. And again, its ability to produce great answers is often dependent on your ability to ask great questions. So it's going to be interesting to see. Okay, well, on to Q5. So Q5, it's funny. Cyber5, Cyber Monday's extended 5 days and beyond. Now we're into Q5, the secret quarter that exists during this holiday period into the new year, new you. There's also I guess like there's last minute gifting. I think I'm all caught up on my gifts here. But what are we doing in this period after Cyber5 to make sure that we get into the next year in the best way possible?
I think one of the big things around this time is shipping and pushing urgency around your holiday cutoff, and not just pushing urgency around your holiday cutoff, but also leveraging your shipping costs if you have good shipping costs. Like, I think what we've seen through the year, shipping costs are going up and up and up, right? As container costs go up and up and up. I think if you offer free shipping or even pretty cheap relative shipping, you need to be pushing that right now. And that's definitely something we're leveraging and seeing success in on the Google side of things.
Very cool. Anything on the creative side for Q5, Chelsea?
Yeah, a lot of what Dougie said, we're just really leveraging a lot of last chance to get it for Christmas, using shipping deadlines, the free shipping. And then, I mean, if you're running promos right now, just like last sale of the year, that sort of thing, just anything that creates a little bit of urgency is pretty successful this time of year.
I like that. And I think we touched on this already, obviously, but in 2023, Chelsea, what are you most excited about on the Google platform?
Yeah, so we did briefly touch on it, but I would say the biggest thing for us is definitely shorts. Like I said, it's sort of it's something new that we get to learn since, we're usually, like I said, on the more polished side of things. So it'll be really interesting to get more into shorts and see, because a lot of the data that we're getting right now is obviously like valid data, but it's somewhat skewed because it's still such a new platform. So I'm excited to dive into that. And they're also introducing a new kind of way of using shorts where they're going to lead to more long form content. So, if you have a product or a service that's higher AOV, might require more than one touch point, or just needs more, explanation, education, that sort of thing. It's a really interesting way to use it, is to have shorter shorts to give a little bit of information and then bring them to the long form stuff.
That's music to my ears. As someone, we produce long form content on the platform, and I was just thinking about that. Okay, we're going to put a bunch of clips out, but how do we make sure our goal is to have them watch the long form content? Do shorts really accomplish that? It's good to know they're building that connection out. Makes perfect sense. What about you, Dougie? What are you excited about 2023?
Yeah, even before I get to that, I think just one final note on Q5. I think one thing people listening should be a bit aware of, although Q5 isn't as big a thing on Google, and I'm with some of the other Pilothouse members where Q5, quarter 5, doesn't make any sense to call it that, but I think it's great marketing by Facebook and Google and the people that own these huge conglomerates. But I do think there is certainly some potential for advertisers to start pushing a bit of spend in the final weeks of the year here, because you're going to get your cheapest CPCs of the year. You're going to be buying traffic at a discount that in theory is going to come back in 2023. So maybe not as much of a focus on the last click, purchase now mentality for these final few weeks post the holiday cutoff, right? But definitely you should start thinking about buying some users at a discount now, because it's going to be as cheap as you can get it. And these are still people coming to your site, spending valuable time on site, getting to know your brand, that are presumably going to come back and buy in 2023. So before I get to 2023, I just wanted to throw that out there as something we should all be aware about. But in terms of 2023, excited about the UA, obviously. Maybe not excited about this because I've come to know and love Universal Analytics over the years, but that's being sunset in the summer of 2023. So that's definitely something to be aware of, making sure people are navigating over to GA4 as soon as possible. The continued development of Performance Max, it's something that is still, I think, still finding our legs in a lot of ways. And I think if anyone tells you they know exactly how to buy with PMax and they know the perfect strategy, they're wrong, because we've tested 1 million and it seems to work a different way for each client. So I think, the continued development of PMax is certainly something I'm looking forward to. As well, there's a couple current betas that I'm hoping will be rolled out in 2023 for all of the listeners as well. A/B testing shopping versus PMax. So in that same vein, are we seeing performance perform? Are we seeing more conversions through shopping versus PMAX? Or is it a mix, right? There's certain clients we have that are only running PMAX or only running shopping or a mix of both. Having that split test is very, very interesting to me as well. Going back to the YouTube side of things, value-based bidding currently in beta, but excited to see that rolled out for 2023 as well. So a little bit more focus on the YouTube side for that direct attribution, less of a focus on awareness there, and being able to bid based on conversion value rather than CPAs. So a couple of things that I'm excited for that are currently in the works, but coming down the pipe for, I think, everyone in 2023.
Very cool. I'm really excited for shorts to long form content. Right now with shorts, you're choosing to send generally to a product, I guess. Right now it's the call to action goes to a product. And so marketers will have to figure out that pipeline as to whether it makes sense to send directly to a product from a short, directly to a longer form video, and then to because I guess longer form videos don't often have a great call to action to get to the product. Could be part of the problem there. Be good when you're trying to build your audience and own your audience's attention, but might be a little bit harder for direct response potentially.
I might use this opportunity to plug the YouTube Partner Program.
Yeah.
So YouTube Partner Program, I mean, super basically put, you have to be a part of that program to monetize YouTube channel. So what you typically can do with a feature with YouTube with their link cards is just link to other videos within YouTube. So that's on ads or like on organically posted content. But if you're a part of the YouTube Partner Program, you can link to external cards. So that would mean, if you do have a long form content, so we could do this in our ads, or if you have a longer video, you can link to, say, a product page instead of just to another video. So it's a really good opportunity if you are part of that program and you want to then kind of use that flow to link to products. So again, using YouTube Shorts and posting those organically is super easy if you're already making that content. And it does kind of get you closer to those thresholds of being able to apply to the YouTube Partner Program. So yeah, that's another thing that we're really pushing for a lot of our accounts to work towards, because we've seen some success with it already, adding those external link cards. So
very cool. Well, we're going to go offline and consult on our YouTube channel, because right now we get most of our listens on audio and almost all of the comments on YouTube. If you're listening to this, go to our YouTube channel and upvote it. Most of the comments on our YouTube video are like, how are you getting, this content is great, how are you getting so few views on it? And I think it's because we've just done YouTube as an afterthought. So maybe we can connect and you guys can help me grow our YouTube presence a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Thanks for coming on the All Killer No Filler podcast today. It was both of your first times and you were both excellent.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the D2C newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilothouse's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.